First of all, I do apologize for any vibrational noise of you might hear. That's going to be like, texts and emails and messages maybe that will come in, YouTube notifications, if you will. So I do apologize if you hear that in advance. But I wanted to come on here because one of my fellow fans of Sonic the Hedgehog asked a question on Twitter. I was scrolling through Twitter not that long ago, and they asked a question about Ian Flynn. And in case you guys don't know who this fan is, they are SatAM historian. That's how they're known on Twitter. And I think they're known like that on YouTube, although I think they also go by the name Jacob Berkeley. That's their real name. And SatAM historian Jacob Berkeley has been working on and off, when he can, on trying to, put together and officially publish a complete history of Sonic SatAM, the animated series, the Saturday morning cartoon that was on ABC. And he's not just focusing on talking about it, itself, that being the show itself. He's also trying to gather all the information from behind the scenes to a lot of the Sonic stuff that influenced SatAM and all the things that were influenced by SatAM even to this day. He's even, talking to people that worked on the show, from behind the scenes to VAs, those that are still alive, and so on. And he's even asking for contributions at times, or has asked for contributions at times from fans like me. And that's why when that book does ever come out, and you see the B.W. Rosa's name in there as, in the special thanks credited area of the book, or the Brian Walmer credited area of the book, that's why. It's, mainly because I sent him some things I got off eBay. I bought off eBay, focused around SatAM, like some WIP drawings and, coloring guides for characters and such. So I sent copies of those to him, and that's why, of course, you'll probably see my name along with many others credited at the end of that book or at the beginning of the book whenever those special thanks and credits are shown and given. But be that as it may, he asked a question, though, about Ian Flynn. And that question was, why does he get so much hate? Like, why is it, all the time that he, talks about this guy or tries to get information that he basically gets a lot of, I guess you could say, disdain thrown his way, or at least that's what I'm interpreting. Why is it he gets so much disdain? And one person did comment and say, well, it's mainly because of what he did with the Archie book. And that would primarily be it. That's why, and Jacob Berkeley, SatAM historian, if you're watching and listening, this is why, from someone that's been a fan for a long time. Ian Flynn, as you know, was, and still is to a standpoint, I should say, technical standpoint, was and still is a fan just like the rest of us. Although now he's living out the one thing that fans always love to live out, and that's working on something that they grew up liking, period. And especially when it comes to the people that are behind the franchise, or at least the American side of it. Well, anyway, Ian, in case you guys don't know, worked on several fan projects of his own. One of the most infamous is known as Other M, which is a webcomic, that he had produced with the help of fellow fans like Jay Foxfire and many others. And mainly, this was a book that this webcomic book went on for like 25, 30 plus issues. And it was a darker take on the characters, and the characters and how they're represented. But also it was, Ian's attempt at doing a more multiverse-like scenario, because we did in the comics get introduced to the multiverse just a tiny bit during the earlier days of the comic as it was slowly transitioning from the more comedic side of things to the more SatAM mature side of things. So Ian Flynn basically was taking a stab at that, with his Other M. And it was, like I said, it was a lot darker, a lot more mature. Basically, this was a rated R Sonic fanfic, is what it was. And he also loosely adapted this into 4 issues, I should say, into 4 issues of Sonic Universe. And I think they titled it Dark Mobius or something like that. And basically, like I said, it's a loose adaptation. But, that's part of the official comic at that time when it was under the Archie license. So, yeah, he's mostly known for that. He's mostly known for that and everything. And, basically, over time, he would partake in a lot of fandom forms from Sonic SatAM, from the SonicSatAM.com or .org message board to the one at Sonic Stadium, to the one at even Ken Pender's, and and so on. He would take part in all that, and he even created his own message board called the Bumblecast forums, which I and many were a part of before he shut those down. And I've had my own history with that as well, because as I've noted before, I kind of did things on there I shouldn't have. It wasn't just uploading. Well, not uploading, but linking certain videos and stuff that I made where I gave my thoughts and opinions and reviews on the issues. But I think it's doing those monthly opinions that I would, as I called them, I was doing those monthly opinions that I think I may have given away. And I think it even happened in my reviews too. I may have given away what I figured would happen. And there's several people that when a certain event would occur would go on a message board, which was Bumble King forums, as they were known by Ian Flynn, or the Sonic SatAM or wherever. There were some people that would call me out and say, hey, B.W. Rose has called it. He called it, he saw it, he called it. And this is before the issue even came out. But anyway, be that as it may, he still participated in the fandom for a while, but then he slowly started to get, work in the comic industry, and mostly started to be like a ghost writer, editor, at Archie. And he was actually being, I guess you could say, trained and taught by Ken Penders. And I think Carl Bolas may have helped out too, but mostly Ken Penders. And then basically, long story short, because it's a whole convolvulated mess behind the scenes, if you listen to Ken, Ian Flynn became the head writer of the book. He became the head writer of the book. And, that all started with issue 160. And what Ian did from that moment on, he made it known on his Bumblecast forums. Well, not Bumblecast, but, Bumblecast is his podcast, but Bumble King forums, I should say. He made it well known on those forums, as well as, doing his Bumblecast, because I think he was starting to bring that up as well. He started to develop that a little bit as well. He made it well known that he was going to use his run on the comic to simplify a lot of things. He was going to simplify things. He was going to kill off certain characters that were not needed because of overcrowdedness, and they're not being utilized, so why have them? And so on. So he basically made some decisions people liked and a lot of people didn't like. And one of the things that he became very well known for is his long story arcs. Now his first major story arc was called Darkest Storm. It was a 3-parter, and all the comic issues connected to make like one big poster. Heck, I have a T-shirt where I put that collage image of all 3 issues on there. That was his first venture into doing one big story arc. And then after that, he decided, I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to do a storyline where basically the doppelganger of Sonic, Evil Sonic, who was now Scourge, would take, the anti-freedom fighters led by him and Fiona Fox, who was part of the Freedom Fighters, sort of, but then went evil because, like I was saying, who was sort of a freedom fighter, but then turned bad because Ian Flynn, I guess, felt like there was nothing, for the character. The character was more along the lines of, she was there, but it was like, what else can you do with her? And he developed this little minor side plot to where, she her background started to come back to haunt her, and eventually she started to disappear, and it all led to a situation in 172 where she basically turned bad or into a anti-hero, as some people would look at it, or whatever. Mainly, I think it was done because they didn't have enough female villains, in the comic. But be that as it may, he did that, and that situation there with Fiona was something fans did not like. They did not enjoy, and even to this day, they're trying to, in their own way, rectify that through artworks and storylines and all that. So that's one thing they didn't like. And then, of course, the most infamous one is the Mecha Sally arc. Now, before that, his other major arc was the Iron Dominion arc, which started at the end in the last page of issue 200, because, again, just like Fiona, he had this little side story where Eggman was starting to slowly lose his mind. He was starting to slowly lose his mind and everything, because in issue 175, he did this 3-part story arc where Eggman had found a way to beat Sonic and teleport everybody into new Megalopolis and these egg grapes and everything. And it was basically a 3-parter to celebrate, the comics anniversary, as well as show that, hey, they're basically showing story that Eggman shouldn't just, worry about Sonic. He needs to also worry about the other freedom fighters, because, the little mecha suit he made for himself to combat Sonic, basically he only built it for Sonic and nobody else. And of course, this led to eventually 25 issues later, Eggman losing his mind and stepping aside storyline-wise for the Iron Dominion and so on. And that lasted for about 10 issues, almost a year. And basically, there were decisions in there that people didn't like. Some didn't like some people didn't like Sally being with Monkey Khan, who got named or rechristened Ken Khan. And, the little romance there, which I've come out and said many times, and I've stuck by this, I think a lot of people would agree with it, was nothing more than the kind of romance, that's only meant for that story only, that's similar to, let's say, a Zach Morris romance in Saved by the Bell, like with the beach episodes, the summer beach episodes where they get jobs at the beach, as well as the Hawaiian-style movie and stuff like that. Check those out if you don't know what I'm talking about. But very similar to those kind of situations, to where it's just a one-off romance for the story, and then the character that's part of it moves on to basically, get back together with the main love interest in the series. And in this case, it's Sally going back with Sonic, and so on. And Ian, one good thing I'll give him is he did a great job slowly building that back up. I mean, you even got hints before the Iron Dominion arc and everything, but he definitely did a good job building that back up and going from there. So I thought that was terrific. I thought that was great. But then, of course, all that was for nothing, because it did culminate with them being back together, in 222. All that was for nothing when the Mecha Sally thing happened. So long story short there, before that, he did a storyline where Eggman had created this device where he would, try to rewrite the world, and, from issue 226 to 230, mainly 230, was called Sonic Genesis, and the prelude was 225, where basically Sally got killed off temporarily, then brought back to life, because Sonic and her were remembering the world prior to the mind wipe and the rebuilding and things that Eggman wanted to do. So again, 230 comes around. Sally realizes she has a second chance at life, and she decides to sacrifice herself to the global roboticizer and become Mecha Sally, which in turn allowed Eggman to weaponize her. And yeah, these are ideas that fans were not thrilled with. They were not happy with. I wasn't thrilled with it, because I've gone on record and saying I've never read an issue of that arc until basically the end. And you go here on my YouTube page, you'll see exactly, the fact that I opened up all the issues after it was all said and done. And then after the first crossover with Mega Man, we had the reboot, and I thought that was a vast improvement. They did think they did have their ups and downs, don't get me wrong, but they mostly, in my opinion, had an uptake in some good storytelling, and most of the characters got some shine. Nicole got some shine in a big way. Her relationship with Sally got some shine, and there was even implications of her and Sally being more than just friends. And I basically, even though it's sacrificed because of behind the scenes legal issues, it's sacrificed a lot of characters that we knew about. The end result I thought was good, even though they tried to make it more game related or close to the games, in presentation. So So there were some good, in my opinion, that came out of the reboot. I know some may disagree with that, but I think there was some good that came from it. And then you get to IDW, and then, basically, he keeps telling fans, oh, I'm trying to get the freedom fighters in there and so on. I'm trying to get them in and everything. And he hasn't really done much. He hasn't really moved his butt in doing so in the eyes of a lot of fans. And then, of course, he did the whole Metal Virus arc, which basically was, in a lot of fans' eyes, from a length standpoint, story length, issue length standpoint, a retread of what he did with Mecha Sally, because it was always just rinse and repeat with a few moments, here and there, to try to keep people's attention, keep their eyes locked onto the product. But it was mainly all rinse and repeat, because he was trying to create his own magnum opus in the eyes of a lot of fans, his own end game, if you will. But that's mainly why a lot of fans don't like him, because of stuff like that. Some do, some don't. And again, when you come across people, Jacob, SatAM historian, the reasons I just said here are the reasons why. But that's all I can say, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. SatAM historian, love to hear what you have to say in response. And anybody else agree with me on this? And if you have any more information about why Ian Flynn gets the rap that he does, or the reputation that he does, negative that is, let SatAM historian know. And until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later. Where you can find me elsewhere here on the old internet. Links are in the description for you to do so. And until then, I am out.